The glass doors of Manhattan Prestige Motors whooshed open with a hiss as Savannah Blake stepped inside. The scent of new leather, polished chrome, and imported wax filled the air. Light spilled in from the towering windows, bouncing off the sleek exteriors of Ferraris, McLarens, and Bentleys. Each car gleamed like a jewel, displayed with the reverence of museum pieces. Savannah didn't match the glittering showroom. She wore jeans, not the designer kind, but the type softened by dozens of washes and years of memories. Her white t-shirt was plain and clean, and her sneakers bore the scuff marks of a life spent on the move, in service in action. No handbag. No jewelry. No entourage. Just her, alone, walking with quiet confidence. Behind the counter, a row of suited salesmen stood like statues. One of them, a man in his late 30s with slick-back hair and the kind of smirk that had been perfected through years of privilege, leaned into his colleague and whispered, "Looks like someone wandered in from the wrong part of town." They chuckled. But Savannah heard. She kept walking. Her eyes scanned the showroom until they landed on a jet-black Bentley Azure coupe, displayed on a rotating platform under a dome of warm lights. The car was sleek, aggressive, and elegant, the kind of machine that didn't just say something, it declared it. Her breath caught for a second. Perfect, she thought. This is the one. She was about to approach when a cheerful young salesman with a fresh face and oversized suit stepped forward. "Good morning, ma'am," he said warmly. "I'm Jeremy. Can I help you with something today?" Savannah smiled.
Hi, yes.
"I'm interested in the Bentley Azure, the one in the center." Before Jeremy could reply, a shadow slid between them. Carter Ellison. Tall, chiseled, and always dressed like he was attending a hedge fund board meeting, Carter was the dealership's senior sales director, and he knew it. He placed a firm hand on Jeremy's shoulder and smoothly nudged him aside. "I'll take it from here," he said, then turned to Savannah with a polite smile that never reached his eyes. "You're looking for directions?" he asked, scanning her from head to toe, taking in her faded jeans, her t-shirt, her beat-up sneakers. "No," Savannah said, maintaining a pleasant tone. "I'd like to learn more about the Azure." Carter blinked, as if her words were in another language. "That particular model," he said slowly, "starts at just under $300,000. We typically show it by appointment only. Perhaps I could direct you to our certified pre-owned inventory. It's 3 blocks east." Savannah tilted her head unfazed. "I appreciate that, but I'm here for the Azure. I'd love to see the interior." Carter's lips twitched, irritation, barely contained. "It's a limited edition. Only 15 were made this year. We don't usually open it up unless we've confirmed financing." Savannah caught the flicker in his eyes. Not concern. Not professionalism. Contempt. She glanced down at her own clothes. The jeans. The shirt. The sneakers. Here we go again, she thought. She wasn't offended, not really. She was used to this. She'd seen it in restaurants, at auctions, in airports. People assumed a woman like her, modestly dressed, without flashy labels, couldn't possibly belong in their expensive world. But she didn't flinch. "I'm prepared to purchase the car today," she said calmly. Behind Carter, 2 other salesmen laughed quietly. One even muttered, "Sure you are." Carter's tone sharpened. "Listen," he said with forced patience, "we get people who like to look around, take photos, dream a little. But this is a professional environment. These vehicles are not toys, and our time is valuable." The air grew heavy. Savannah could feel eyes on her, judging her, laughing at her. She thought of Nicole, her sister, who had just finished chemotherapy and endured hell to get her life back. She thought of how Nicole used to whisper about driving a luxury car just once as a celebration if she beat the odds. That's why Savannah was here. And that's why she refused to leave. But before she could respond, Carter stepped aside, his smile venomous. "I'll leave you with a brochure," he said coolly. "Maybe come back with an appointment next time. And something a little more appropriate to wear." He turned, already walking toward a new couple entering the showroom, the kind dressed in Gucci and Prada, dripping with perfume and entitlement. As they walked past Savannah, Carter's voice boomed. "Welcome, Mr. and Mrs. Langston." Let me show you our exclusive collection. Savannah stood still, her face calm, but something stirred behind her eyes. Not rage, resolve. She reached into her pocket, pulled out her phone, and quietly typed a name. Lucas Stone. Then she stepped outside into the morning sun and smiled. The soft hum of tires against the gravel echoed through the front courtyard of Stonehaven Estate, an expansive 5-acre property tucked into the hills just north of Manhattan. Ivy crawled across the gray stone walls, and the modern glass windows reflected a golden afternoon sun. Inside, the house was a blend of quiet elegance and understated wealth. Oak floors, books stacked with intention, sunlight dancing across minimalist furniture. Savannah stepped through the front door, still holding her phone, her fingers curled tightly around it. In his study, Lucas Stone, her husband of 15 years and one of the world's leading pioneers in renewable energy storage, was deep in a call. As she walked in, he glanced up. His dark eyes instantly focused on her face. He ended the call mid-sentence. "What happened?" he asked, standing. "Your eyes look like thunder." Savannah gave a soft chuckle and dropped into the leather armchair across from his desk. "It's been a morning," she said, brushing her fingers over the armrest. "Educational." Lucas tilted his head, concerned. "Let me guess. Manhattan prestige." She nodded slowly. "I wanted to surprise Nicole. Her birthday's next month. You know how much she's always loved Bentleys, and after everything she's been through, I thought, why not? She deserves the moon." "She does," Lucas agreed. "So I walked into the showroom, and the moment they looked at me, they decided I didn't belong. Just dismissed me. Laughed at me. Suggested I look at used cars. Told me the Azure was for serious buyers." Lucas's jaw flexed. "They what?" Savannah shrugged. "They saw my clothes and made a judgment call. It's not the first time I've seen that expression. You know the one, that you're not supposed to be here look." She leaned forward. "But it wasn't just about me today. It was how normal it all felt to them. Like they do it every day. To anyone who doesn't match their version of worth." Lucas sat back down, his brow furrowed. "What did you do?" "I left," she replied, "with my head up. But not because I was defeated. Because I was thinking." He watched her, waiting. "I could go buy Nicole's car somewhere else," but she hesitated. "I kept thinking about the young guy there. Jeremy. He looked nervous, but treated me with respect. Spoke to me like I was human, like I mattered. He was probably the only person in that showroom who didn't look at me like I was invisible." Lucas nodded slowly. "And Carter Ellison?" "Oh, him? Tall, too polished, sharp mouth. He was the one leading the performance. If arrogance could be bottled, he'd be selling it next to cologne." Lucas let out a short breath through his nose, half laugh, half disbelief. "So," he said, lacing his fingers together, "what would you like to do?" Savannah leaned back and looked out the tall window behind him, where trees swayed gently in the breeze. "I want to give Nicole that car. That hasn't changed. But I also want people like Carter to learn. Not to feel small, not to be punished, but to see. To really see what they've been blind to." Lucas was quiet for a moment, his gaze locked on her. He had always admired this about Savannah, the fire in her that wasn't fueled by ego, but by empathy. A strength that refused to be loud, yet commanded every room she walked into. "I think I have an idea," he said at last, a spark lighting behind his eyes. "One that delivers both the lesson and the car." Savannah arched an eyebrow. "Oh." Lucas leaned forward, now energized. "Not revenge. Not humiliation. But a mirror. Something that forces them to confront themselves." She grinned, familiar with this look on her husband's face. "Whatever it is, just promise me it's not going to end with you owning the dealership." Lucas laughed. "Tempting. But no. That would be too easy. This calls for something more subtle, something unforgettable." She stood and crossed the room to him. "I don't need to be there. I've already seen who they are." He reached for her hand. "Then let me show them who you are." That night, after dinner, Lucas made a series of quiet but significant phone calls. calls to individuals who owed him favors, respected his name, or simply couldn't afford to say no. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't pull rank. He simply asked for a favor, and when Lucas Stone asked, people listened. In a matter of hours, the wheels were turning. At Manhattan Prestige Motors, the staff went home unaware of the storm about to arrive, not with anger, but with wisdom wrapped in quiet power. Tomorrow would be different. Tomorrow, the dealership wouldn't just sell a car. It would receive an education. Morning sunlight spilled across the polished floors of Manhattan Prestige Motors, making the showroom look like a cathedral of chrome and status. Exotic vehicles sparkled under strategically placed spotlights, and the scent of leather and high-gloss polish lingered in the air like a silent boast. Carter Ellison strolled in, coffee in hand, with the swagger of a man who believed the world operated exactly as it should for him. Yesterday's incident with a underdressed woman was already a joke he'd shared over cocktails with a few colleagues at the Midtown Club. Wandered in looking like she came from a food truck, he'd said with a chuckle. Wanted to test drive a Bentley. Can you believe it? He didn't remember her name. He didn't care to. Inside the dealership, Carter called the morning huddle. Let's remember, qualify your buyers. No time wasters. We're not here to play fantasy garage with dreamers. Jeremy, the young salesman who'd spoken briefly with Savannah the day before, shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. Carter noticed. He always noticed. I'll talk to you after, Carter said quietly, a warning in his voice. The meeting broke. The staff returned to their polished roles. Sales smiles. Handshakes. Polished shoes pacing between Italian sports cars. Then it happened. At exactly 10:17 a.m., the deep, commanding hum of a powerful engine rolled through the air like distant thunder. Every head turned. A custom Rolls-Royce Phantom, cloaked in a rich midnight purple with bronze accents, slid to a stop just outside the main entrance. The car looked less like it had arrived and more like it had ascended, too rare, too silent, too regal for this world. A uniformed chauffeur stepped out in white gloves, walked around, and opened the rear door with a reverence typically reserved for royalty. From within, Lucas Stone emerged. He was tall, immaculately dressed in a custom-tailored charcoal suit. His salt and pepper hair was precisely styled, and his expression was cool, unreadable, the kind of man who commanded boardrooms with a whisper, not a shout. Carter's breath caught. His finely tuned instincts kicked in. This wasn't just a potential customer. This was a whale. Someone who didn't ask for price tags. Someone who could make or break the quarterly numbers with a single nod. Carter rushed forward, past the receptionist. Good morning, sir. Welcome to Manhattan Prestige Motors. I'm Carter Ellison, Senior Sales Director. May I say, that is a magnificent ride. Lucas offered a polite smile that stopped just short of warmth. Thank you. What brings you in today? Carter asked, his voice as smooth as his tailored jacket. I'd be honored to show you our newest arrivals. We just received. I'm here about the Bentley Azure Coupe. The one displayed on the center platform, Lucas said, voice calm and precise. Carter lit up. Excellent choice, sir. A stunning vehicle. Only 15 produced this year. I'd be delighted to. I know where it is, Lucas interrupted, his eyes fixed on Carter now. My wife came here yesterday. Savannah Blake. Carter blinked. The name rang a bell. He fumbled internally, connecting dots. Savannah, white shirt, jeans. Oh no. She was interested in the Azure. Lucas continued, his tone still neutral, but laced with something colder now. You met her. Or rather, you dismissed her. The color drained from Carter's face. Sir, I wasn't aware. Lucas took a slow step forward. She was laughed at. Redirected to your used lot. Publicly humiliated. Because she wasn't wearing designer labels. A hush fell over the showroom. Employees froze mid-step. Customers fell silent. Victoria Kensington, the dealership owner, stepped out of her office at the edge of the growing tension. Mr. Stone, she said, a forced smile on her face. A pleasure. Is there a problem here? Lucas turned to her. Savannah Blake. My wife. Founder of the Blake Foundation. A woman who's raised over $50 million for children with disabilities. A woman who lives modestly by choice because it keeps her heart grounded in the work she does. He turned his gaze back to Carter. And a woman who walked into your showroom with the full intention of buying that Bentley in cash and was told, quite clearly, that she didn't belong. Carter opened his mouth, but no words came out. Victoria's face flushed. I remember now. I believe I saw part of that conversation, but you said nothing, Lucas finished for her. You watched it happen. The silence in the room became unbearable. And then, softly, another voice entered. It was Jeremy. She was treated badly, he said, his voice steady despite the pressure. She was polite. Direct. She asked about the Azure, and Mr. Ellison brushed her off. Multiple times. Carter turned to glare, but the damage was already done. Lucas faced Victoria. Originally, I came here to buy the Azure for my wife's sister. But I was also considering upgrading the fleet for Stone Tech, our executive branch. 7 new vehicles. Victoria's eyes widened. A sale like that could carry the entire quarter. But after yesterday's performance, Lucas added, I'm not sure this dealership represents the values I invest in. Victoria's lips parted. Mr. Stone, please. Allow us to make this right. Lucas stared at her a long moment, then nodded slowly. There may be a way forward, but it will require more than just an apology. He turned to Carter again, eyes sharp. The Blake Foundation is hosting a benefit gala next month to fund an adaptive sports center. I believe it would be enlightening for you to attend. As a guest, Carter asked, hope flickering. Lucas's voice cut like a scalpel. As a volunteer, helping children set up, clean up, serve, and see. Carter didn't respond. He couldn't. Lucas turned to Jeremy. And I'd like you to process the sale, starting with the Azure. Jeremy's eyes widened. Me? Yes, sir. Absolutely. Lucas nodded. Let's begin. As he and Jeremy walked toward the back office, Lucas paused in front of the Bentley Azure. He ran his fingers along the sleek edge and smiled faintly. My wife has extraordinary taste. Behind them, Carter stood frozen, his perfect world cracked in half by nothing more than the quiet power of truth. The ballroom of the Starlight Grand Hotel shimmered with warm golden light as guests flowed into the Blake Foundation Benefit Gala. Soft classical music drifted from a live quartet near the entrance. The room was filled not with extravagance, but with intent. Photos of smiling children, banners describing programs for adaptive sports, and easels displaying success stories written in heartfelt testimonials. There were no celebrity influencers, no staged red carpet. Just families, doctors, teachers, and volunteers who had come together for one cause: to change lives. Carter Ellison, now dressed in a plain black staff uniform with a white lanyard labeled volunteer, stood near the guest tables, adjusting cutlery and pouring water. It was a far cry from the showroom. The cufflinks were gone. The ego, too. The past few weeks had been humbling. Since the confrontation with Lucas Stone, Carter had been stripped of his lead sales title, temporarily reassigned to customer service, and, most shocking to his peers, asked to complete 20 hours of community work under the Blake Foundation's supervision. He had expected it to be humiliating, but something else happened. The first time he assisted a young boy named Mason, who had lost both legs in an accident, the boy greeted him with the widest smile Carter had ever seen. You gonna play basketball with me, Mr. C? Mason had asked, holding a mini foam ball. I can try, Carter had said. Mason grinned. Good. I'll go easy on you. And somehow that moment, innocent, generous, unfiltered, had cracked something open in Carter. Now, weeks later, Mason wheeled toward him across the ballroom, wearing a small bow tie and holding a toy microphone. You see that guy with the camera? Mason asked. He says I gotta give a speech. Need help? Carter asked, kneeling beside him. Mason nodded seriously. I think I forgot what to say. Carter smiled. Just speak from your heart. Across the room, Savannah Blake entered, wearing a flowing navy dress with simple silver earrings. Her hair was pinned loosely back, and her only accessory was a small bracelet, woven by a child from the Foundation's art program. She was beauty without effort, elegance without performance. As she made her way through the guests, many turned not because of who she was married to, but because of who she was, a woman who had turned compassion into movement. She spotted Carter by the stage. He saw her and straightened instinctively. Gone was the salesman's bravado, replaced by a man searching for the words he'd never said. Savannah approached him gently. "Mrs. Blake," he said quietly. "Thank you for letting me be here tonight. Truly." She looked at him, not with judgment, but curiosity. "How's it been?"
He paused,
then nodded toward Mason. "He's teaching me basketball. Apparently, I shoot like a confused ostrich." Savannah smiled. "He's an honest coach." They shared a light laugh, and then Carter grew serious again. "I know I've apologized through your husband, through the Foundation, but I needed to say it directly. I was wrong. I treated you unfairly, based on nothing but clothes, assumptions, ego." "You're right," Savannah said, not harshly but plainly. "There's no excuse." Carter looked down. "There isn't, but I've learned something." She tilted her head. "What's that?" "That real value," he said slowly, "doesn't come from suits or cars or sales numbers. It comes from how you treat people who can't do anything for you in return." Savannah studied him for a moment, then offered a small nod. Then maybe her time here wasn't wasted after all. Just then, Lucas approached, placing a warm hand on her back. Carter turned to him. "Mr. Stone, thank you for the opportunity, for not ending me." Lucas smirked slightly. "We didn't need to. You ended who you were, and built someone better." Carter gave a quiet laugh. "I'd like to think so." Lucas looked across the ballroom. "And maybe it's time you had a second chance to prove it." "Sir, that fleet order I mentioned," Lucas said, folding his arms. "We're still in the market. And I hear from Jeremy that you've been mentoring the junior sales staff during your reassignment." Carter looked stunned. "You'd let me handle that?" Lucas nodded. "You earned it. Not with your sales pitch, but with your humility." Just then, Mason tugged on Carter's sleeve. "Hey, Mr. C, it's speech time." Carter turned to Savannah and Lucas. "Excuse me. My real boss is calling." As Mason wheeled toward the stage, Carter followed behind him, carrying the boys' note cards with careful hands. In the background, Savannah turned to Lucas and whispered, "You know, I never expected him to change this much." Lucas smiled. Sometimes the lesson just needs the right classroom. Weeks after the gala, the world moved on, as it always does. But inside Manhattan Prestige Motors, something fundamental had shifted. The glossy floors still shone, the luxury cars still purred, but behind the gleaming exteriors, a quiet revolution had taken root. Sales scripts were rewritten. Training programs introduced terms like unconscious bias and empathy-based service. Most importantly, the showroom no longer judged its visitors by their wallets or wardrobes, but by their humanity. And at the heart of that change, Carter Ellison. He no longer saw himself as the gatekeeper of status. He saw himself as a servant of opportunity, a bridge, not a barrier. Every Monday morning, he held a short meeting where the first 5 minutes were spent sharing stories of kindness, not just commissions. He quoted things he'd heard from kids at the Blake Foundation, like Mason's wise words, "People are just like books. You don't throw them out because the cover's got a dent." That line stuck with him. One crisp Saturday morning, the deep hum of a luxury engine filled the dealership once again. This time, Carter didn't flinch. He stepped forward, smiling as the midnight black Bentley Azure coupe rolled off the transport trailer. Jeremy stood beside him, clipboard in hand. "You know," Jeremy said, glancing at the car, "when I started here, I thought success meant Rolexes and power ties." Carter smiled, eyes softening. "And now I think success is being someone worth trusting." Carter nodded.
"Yeah,
that sounds about right." Just then, Savannah Blake pulled into the lot in her silver Tesla, a blue ribbon in her hands. She emerged with that same quiet grace, jeans, flats, a simple blouse. The woman who had once been judged for looking out of place now walked in as the most respected name in the building. Behind her, Nicole, her sister, stepped out with cautious wonder in her eyes. She had recovered, body healing, spirit stronger. "This is insane," Nicole whispered, seeing the Bentley. "It's yours," Savannah said, handing her the ribbon. "You earned more than a car, but this is a start." Nicole's hands trembled as she accepted the keys. "You always believed in me." "I learned from the best," Savannah smiled. Carter stepped forward quietly. "Miss Nicole, if you'd allow me, I'd be honored to walk you through every feature personally." Nicole turned to him, surprised. "You're the manager?" "I'm the guy who once thought he knew everything," Carter said, with a touch of self-awareness. "Now I'm just trying to learn every day, starting with how to serve people like you." Nicole glanced at Savannah, who gave a warm nod. "All right then," Nicole said. "Let's start with how to connect Bluetooth." They all laughed. Later, as the sun dipped over Manhattan, Savannah, Lucas, and Carter stood near the curb, watching Nicole drive away in the car that once sparked judgment but now radiated joy. Lucas slipped an arm around his wife's shoulders. "You know," he said, "you never needed to prove anything. But I'm glad the world got to see you." "I wasn't trying to prove anything," Savannah replied, "just trying to teach a lesson." Carter looked down, then up. "One I'll never forget." He extended his hand to Savannah, and this time, she shook it. Not as strangers, not as adversaries, but as equals. Epilogue. The Measure of Worth. A small brass plaque now hangs behind the front desk at Manhattan Prestige Motors. It reads, "True wealth is not found in what you wear or what you drive, but in how you treat others when you think no one important is watching." In honor of the Blake Foundation. Every customer sees it. Every employee remembers it. And every heart that walks through those glass doors is now greeted with something rare in places of luxury: respect.